Welcome to Screen Sleuths. I'm Chris, back from vacation, and this week Rob is out jet-setting on his own vacation. But I'm here to help you untangle Sugar Episode 7, The Friends You Keep. This episode had no shortage of answers. The show is wrapping up quick, but there are some big questions we're still hoping to get answered in the finale episode. Is John still being deceived by his own kind? What is their true mission, and what is Olivia's fate? We're going to touch on all of these questions, provide a full theory, and explain why I think the organization has shifted from observing to experimenting. So stick with me through the ride because I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. So is John being deceived by his own kind? For sure, 100%. John is being misled by his supposed friends. Despite being a private investigator, he's unaware of the organization's true activities. This includes the human trafficking and the tracking device Ruby placed on his car. His ignorance is really highlighted when Henry hands him the answer to his own case in a meeting that John didn't even know about. But this is where I think we get a clue that the other members are being deceived by Ruby and Miller as well, and what the organization is truly doing. Remember early in the episode, Ruby and Miller use a geodesic dome-shaped device, possibly for quantum communication, which allows secure, long-distance messaging. Their discomfort during the process hints at a larger scheme. They both exude similar vibes in that moment as they did during their prior conversation in the field. But we are unaware what the message or the response was. All we get is Henry's narrative to John about Senator Pavich's blackmail over the organization, which reveals Henry's own blind acceptance of unknown facts. Okay, so now at this point it seems clear that Henry and the others were aware of the organization's shady dealings with Stallings and running defense for the senator's son, so all his indiscretions aren't made public. But Henry is still clearly struggling with this decision since it deviates so much from their usual protocol of minimal harm to humans. And we can see his mental gymnastics happening during his debate with John over the morality of the situation. But Henry explains his thoughts perfectly earlier in the show during his lecture. The ability to hold a variety of opposing thoughts and feelings at the exact same time. Essentially justifying the actions he's taking with the need to survive, even if that means he has to compromise his ethics. And that line of logic leads us into what I think is the real mission, or what the mission has become. The evolving mission of the organization seems to be shifting from mere observation and reporting to experimenting with humans. Now, while this might sound extreme, let's look at the big picture. Throughout the series, there's a dog and cat dynamic between John and his superiors, two different schools of thought. And in this episode, Henry emphasizes that the longer they stay on Earth, the more human they become. And the concept of the for the greater good, which has historically been used by humans to justify pretty much any terrible action, is what Miller accuses John of losing sight of at the meeting at the end of the episode. And it's not even the first time Miller uses this line of logic. When he meets with Ruby among the cottonwood trees, she has similar trepidations and concerns about the type of people they're working with and the direction the organization's starting to go. And Miller uses the same logic. Don't worry about it. Do what you have to do. It's for the greater good. So this theme permeates the entire show. Okay, so let's talk about the torture chamber, or what we thought was a torture chamber used by Orion Pavich for purely sadistic and horrific purposes. But now, I think, has been commandeered by the organization to experiment on humans. In particular, the trafficked humans that they were working with Stallings to obtain. And this is a great time to point out the stark contrast to how his organization is treating these vulnerable people, and how John's treatment of the homeless man illustrates how far John and his organization have grown apart. But the clue that puts the organization in the house and the basement is the pens. These pens are on the shelves and the stool, and they're a callback to the constant note-taking that the organization does. But more importantly, it's the same pen Henry uses to write the address down for John earlier in the episode. But this secret is the perversion of their ethics that Ruby doesn't want John to know about, and these are the same ethics that John uses as pretty much a mantra throughout the entire series. But we repeatedly see the contradiction of his race throughout the whole show. He'll vocalize things like, we're not supposed to hurt people, we aren't murderers and kidnappers. But the killing of Stallings, the abandonment of the kidnapper to the Yakuza boss, each on their own is an act of contradiction. So based off that, it's not a huge surprise that when John summarizes their mission into our sole reason for being here is to preserve our peaceful way of life, that it could be morphed into a twisted justification for horrible tactics like we see happening now. But let's take a minute to talk about CD number 44, because it's clear that these sessions are being recorded in order to be used as a corrupted version of the observation and report directive. We even see a male and female symbol on the CD case to help catalog the results. But what are they trying to test or extract from these sessions? Well, some possibilities might be organic material to help create the blood transfusion bags, or to synthesize whatever is in their intravenous drugs, both of which seem to help keep them in human form. Or are they trying to strengthen their current formula? Or is this formula needed on their home planet, which is why the mysterious they that they keep referring to are depending on the operatives on Earth to complete their mission? But what if the reason is even more bizarre? What if it's the reason why John looks so confused and surprised after peering under the stairs? What if they're trying to create hybrids? Is John looking at an Olivia who's mid-transformation or has been experimented on already? And that's why he seems shocked and confused when he's looking at her? This theory doesn't stray too far from what Rob thought from episode 6, where they were here to scout the planet and potentially inhabit it later on. But then the question is, are all of these CDs potential attempts at this experiment? Are they failed experiment attempts? And are the failed experiments being made to disappear in Miller's construction site, where they're building low-income housing, which again is another example of their race's moral ambiguity? So I know that's a lot of information to take in, but I do want to quickly touch on the Seigels and their current role in the story at this point. Now, this may be kind of a fringe theory, but Henry brings up a group of very powerful people, powerful enough to know that these aliens exist on Earth, and enough to strike fear in them that they could be exterminated at any time. Now, I don't think that they're describing a senator or even a few members within the government. I think there's a chance that Jonathan Siegel's overt hand positions during Davy's funeral hints at an Illuminati connection, and that this could be the powerful group of humans that the organization actually takes seriously. Now, I know this could be a little more of a stretch, and it could just be how he rested his hands, but he is very prominent in the shot, and the formation does closely resemble what is rumored to be an Illuminati reference, so take it for what it is. And I also want to make clear the similarities between Davy and Ryan's deaths. Both sons of powerful men, both live lives that cause damage to other people, and both died of self-inflicted head wounds. It could mean something, it could mean nothing, but the similarities were prominent enough that I thought it was worth bringing up on the show. Lastly, both Rob and myself noticed the large and small circles like celestial bodies on the notebooks, and we immediately thought of the Earth and the Moon, which ties into the recurring shots of the Moon throughout the entire series. So with that connection in mind, when Ruby tells the team that they're going to go off-planet, could she be referring to an observation station on the Moon, giving them an orbiting vantage point? And this may also explain Ruby's communication device. If it's not a quantum communication device, then it's unlikely that the signals would come back so quickly from far away, and they would need to have somewhere much closer for the signal to respond the way that we see it in the show. Well, that's it. We covered a ton of information and even dipped our toe into the fringe end of the pool. But most importantly, we want to hear what you all think. And if you like what we're doing, please keep liking and subscribing to let the algorithm know we are on the right track. Drop your comments under this video. Find us on Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I guess we're doing this now. Thanks to Rob. Until next week, stay sleuthy.